Hello, everybody.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, Glenn brought us a new friend.
Hello there. I've got to find the doc here.
Oh, hold on. Let me help you with that. Fun fact, we also have a Git repository now.
Awesome.
It exists. It's kind of a stub. I'll work on that in my free time. But we have something.
That's awesome.
Wow, you get free time.
I get. I'm gonna arm wrestle 5 other meetings to ignore them. Do a little typing.
Excellent. I am adding a link to the code of conduct at the top of our meeting notes.
Thank you, sir.
There we go. To be honest, I don't think we've had any problems so far. I'm sure it will happen someday, but most folks have been actually quite reasonable.
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
We'll get started in just one more minute. I posted a link to the agenda in the Zoom chat. So if you would like to mark your attendance, if you have any opens you'd like to add. Today, I'd like to reflect on the first year goals and tasks, and then start to work on beyond the first year. I think I have the plan somewhere. I do have the plan. Anyone's curious about the mobilization plan?
By the way, I am happy to help assist in scribing. So.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I realized yesterday during the CERT SIG, I can't talk and type at the same time. All right, everybody. Welcome to the July 13th edition of the OpenSSF's Education SIG. Do we have anybody new that wanted to introduce themselves to say hello to the group?
Yeah, Sal here. Some of you have met me before. I don't know if I've been on this call, but definitely not for months. But yeah, I wanted to jump in and see if there's any support that I can give around some more open source supply chain content sometime this year.
Awesome.
And also one minor note, no, this is not the purpose of the call, but I have been getting some wonky issues with the platform taking your current cybersecurity thing. It's giving me weird results on questions. So maybe that's a follow-up that you can point me towards. It's just a technical issue.
Would that be the edX or on the Linux Foundation site, which
directly from the Linux Foundation site? Yeah, it tells you you're wrong no matter what you answer for some of the questions. That's it, but it makes you double check and look. So it's probably actually very good for education purposes because you really go back.
Okay, so shoot me an email. I will put in the chat my email address. Basically, tell me, everything you can about where the problem is, so we can try to reproduce it.
Easy.
And I will forward it on to our education folks who try to figure out what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
Is it okay to share your email with them?
Got it.
Yeah, is it okay to share your email with them?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, feel free to.
Okay, because they may have to come back to you to figure out, repeat. Because thank you for letting us know, and we want to fix that. So thank you.
Super minor thing. That's it. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Can everybody see my awesome screen with the mobilization plan? All right. So in our first call last week, we discussed the as documented first year goals. So those of you that were here last week, part of your homework was to reflect on our conversation and the notes in the agenda. And did anyone see anything that we missed or that we'd like to change as laid out in those initial first year goals?
Didn't we also have this in the Google Drive?
It is lower in the notes. So if you scroll down the meeting notes, we actually have our notes.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about beyond the first year to try to vet things after post 20 second half of 2023 and beyond.
I don't see the manager ones. Did we have that?
We had that noted at
10, but I don't know that we actually were going to.
So if you look at the if you click on the references on the left hand side of the meeting notes, just above that we had some target trainings. We had higher education, trade school.
Left hand side. I don't see a left hand side. Wait.
On the Google Doc, you don't see the outline view.
Oh,
scroll to page 6. Bottom of page 6.
Yeah, page 6 is probably not going to help me very much, but
yeah. So right above references, we have the training areas of focus. So we talked about higher ed, trade school, boot camp, primary, secondary, and then I'm going to remove
managers.
maybe. So that'll be another kind of target audience we're interested in shaping this training for in the future.
Okay.
And if anyone has any other kind of target audiences we may wish to either modify or develop training for, just toss it down there for now, and we'll get that when we actually write the plan. Yes, Glenn.
Yeah, I actually updated the stream 1 comments document as well to provide feedback because, yeah, I missed that part. So some of the things I actually put there.
Okay.
Because, for example, ideally, you also want maybe to have like job transfer bootcamp as an audience, people who wants to do a whole different profession. Actually, I did with the current SKF material that we have, I actually used it to transfer a guy who was a cook and now he's a junior cybersecurity tester. So
I will track down the stream 1 notes and grab that feedback.
Yeah, we already covered boot camp, didn't we? Which is often how, I mean, between boot camp and universities, I'm hoping that would be covered. Because I agree with the goal. I'm just not sure how we're not covering it.
Yeah, there was indeed a boot camp section as well. But yeah, I didn't have the context what it actually meant. So
all right, we'll go back and we'll have once we finish reviewing the written plan and we start to write the 2.0 version, we actually will write down target audiences, personas that we want to develop the training for. So that'll be a next step for us. And yeah, if you have any ideas, just toss them into the notes now so that we can get those addressed. All right, so let's look at the beyond first year annual goals. So the first goal here is localize the most critical education materials into 5 languages. So do we have any disagreement about making this content more globally available? We'll start with 5 and as able, add more.
I had there the addition like .NET Core and you know, again, sorry, because maybe it was already addressed in the start of the meeting that I joined late last time. But what is actually the scope of this secure development? Because, my area is really in the web API infrastructure, a bit of mobile, but how broad are we going to do, and what would be the scope for the MVP?
So this particular item, Glenn, is human languages, not computer languages. So you would translate this into Mandarin, French, Spanish. We would find out the 5 most popular international languages and translate the material. So we did address your C and C++ as computer languages we will need to have training for. We talked about that last week. So that'll be part of what the body of work we make. And then this particular item, we would translate teaching C++ security development into French, for example.
Yeah, quick clarification. I'm not sure C and C++ were in that list. So
Added it.
I know TypeScript, I know JavaScript was and Python was.
I added it.
You added it. Okay. And then
So does that help clarify that point for you? So any questions about making the content available for more international audiences beyond English? All right. The next point was to manage relations with organizations and universities to adopt secure software content. The idea here is hiring people and making this their job to go around and talk to different programs, what colleges and universities, things like Girls Who Code effort, that program. So somebody's job is to evangelize and try to get content more broadly adopted.
Yeah, I had a remark here. So is this region based, that we select per region people who do it in that region? Because then 2 people, yeah, it's going to be tricky. So actually my suggestion would be to split it up, like more regionalized. So I don't know how many regions we have on top of my mind, because that's not my cup of tea. But let's say Europe, Asian, USA, and that we then allocate that amount of money for those regions to have that impact.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. I don't, the initial intention was just to find some bodies and have them start doing this, but that is a point. We have a lot of different geographies we want to get this content to. So we would need to address that. So procedurally, when we're done talking through these points and adding additional things, we're going to build a new document that'll be the plan, and then we'll start to fill in details. So when we get back to this, we'll have a swag saying we would like 1 person per major geography, EMEA, APAC.
Yeah, Crow, I actually modified within the meeting notes themselves the maybe split by region, because I think that is an important point. And just it's simpler to capture it that way.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll actually create a new document, and we'll have to probably do a little bit better fact finding on budgets, and figure out how we're going to potentially the logistics of hiring these people, where they would report to, that type of stuff. But that'll be a future detail we'll iron out. But we agree in principle that there should be a group of people hired to help push this content and make sure it's more broadly adopted. All right. Our next point was create and curate development secure practices library for the Open Educational Resource Platform. I'm unfamiliar with this. Do you have specifics on what this might be, David? Is this a thing that exists in academia?
Wait, which one? Number 4?
Yeah, create and curate development secure practices library in the Open Education Resource Platform.
There's a resource platform?
I don't know where this came from.
It seems to imply existence of a platform already. So somebody must know about it.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they mean open educational resources. I mean, do they mean the LF training and certificate? That has a different name. I don't know what this
It's
is
the same
about.
thing. Linux Foundation is one of the top things that comes up for me, but my search is pretty for it.
Now, there is something called Open Educational Resources on oercommons.org.
Does that feel?
I mean, that feels plausible, but I don't know.
Well, how about we set aside the question of platform and just set that aside and have it simply be a library of resources. And then the determination of where that library lives is for future people to figure out. Like this is beyond first year, right? So
Correct.
we should figure out at that point, what is the most popular or most reliable or what have you resource where we can collaborate and share with them our stuff.
Yeah, that's a very fair point, Vicky. I like that.
Yeah, I have to create a development secure practices library. I don't think I made this, so I'm not sure now what this is all about.
I definitely didn't. Was I know what it was?
Yeah, let's see here. Okay. Maybe.
Can it be any platform that offers free courses or free training rather than paid? I think it's just
Possibly,
an
yeah.
open-ended. To me, when I read it, it's like any open source platform or any free training on a platform. LinkedIn could be a free training.
Yeah,
the paid version as well.
Yeah. Yeah, the problem I'm having is that if that's the case, this may be a leftover from the time when we only were on edX and the certificates were pretty expensive. That was a problem that we solved by switching over to the LF's own platform where we can control the costs. So, and from a licensing point of view, the course material has always been free in both senses.
Oh, we are the ones writing the plan, so we have the ability to edit this and shape it in the way we desire.
Right. I have modified the text below to say perhaps on open educational resource and or LF training, because I don't think that we even know. I don't think that we are convinced as a body that it must be the open educational resource platform. How's that?
Correct.
So I would like to propose we have determination of location be a separate item, because it is going to be important, and the presentation layer of the information, it should be secondary to the information itself.
Right.
So
agreed.
I don't want to get I don't want to bike shed on it right now, because it is a pretty important question. Where are we going to publish this stuff? But it might not be on some sort of learning platform.
Yeah.
It could be that we publish books. It could be that we publish books and make them available on Internet Archive. It could be that we make videos. There's any number of ways we could do this, right? So I would skip that question completely, make it a separate item to determine the appropriate place to put this. I would rather we weren't funneling every piece of information through the Linux Foundation. I would rather we were able to expand our scope and provide resources that can be used by anyone, rather than this being a lead gen opportunity for Linux Foundation training. And now I'll get off my soapbox and drink my coffee.
Development Secure Practices Library.
The
Was
phrasing
that
is also weird too.
Was that defined by the plan, perhaps? I'm gonna go pull up the plan and see if we.
I was not invited to the clandestine meeting that ultimately created the final plan, so I can't state how that got in there.
Yeah, it was very poorly clandestine. Let's see here. The development secure practices. Let me see.
Yeah, and I agree with Vicky. We'll table the determination of where this will go for a future conversation.
Okay.
If anyone has any ideas or any knows where that came from, awesome.
Okay. I will add that phrase comes directly from the plan. And so we can. Okay. It looks like it's coming from part one, creating an OER library of secure development practices. I mean, literally, that's all it says. So we'll need to figure out what that means, or maybe table it if it's not actually all that important.
Oh, well, maybe that was our phrasing that we're going to make a library somewhere.
To be honest, like, if you look at SKF, we actually also try to do similar thing with like the top 5 programming languages where you have like, hey, this is a secure implementation of requirement X, right? And I think that feels a bit similar like that one, like secure practices library, where you have just code snippets where you can look and get inspiration on how to implement certain things. And of course, that needs to be somewhere hosted in a platform, reviewed, etc. So if I read it from that angle, it makes sense. And it is very valuable as well, right? Because if you go to Stack Overflow, yeah, you also have code snippets there, but full with vulnerabilities.
Agreed. No, I think that we have a lot of room we can expand on that in the future.
Yeah. But this may be something of a side note, but it might be better if the goal is code snippets. It might be better to work with Stack Overflow to fix the code snippets to actually be secure for a change.
I think there is an initiative there that they tried with tagging and which they can upvote it higher, but the amount of new stuff coming in, it's not doable to validate them all.
Oh, all is ridiculous, but I don't think all is should be the goal. I think you just like everything else, you prioritize. Let's find the top 100 and go fix that. And
Yeah.
sure, never-ending job. Welcome, to the human condition. So.
Yeah, the problem is that and also notice for myself with SKF, nobody's really actually updating it again in the right context with the new, lessons learned. So yeah.
Well, I have an idea for that, Glenn. We'll talk at another time, but I think part of our evangelism is getting tools like SKF out there. That is the more practical piece of the education, hands-on keyboard. And I think if we go out there and start doing some demos, we might be able to encourage some participation and contribution back. But moving to our next point, implement a system to track over time the number of people who have earned certificates and the number of projects that have a maintainer that earns certification, and partner with organizations to make this information easily available. So somebody takes the class, gets a certificate, that might show up in their LinkedIn profile or on their GitHub profile, GitLab profile. And we will have some way to measure the number of people that have taken the class and gotten the certificates. Any conversation on that goal?
I think we ought to list at least some E2s. So at least I have in mind GitHub, GitLab, LinkedIn, Indeed.
LF has some kind of profile for you, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Those are easy.
And it links up directly to LinkedIn, so that would be a nice little vector.
Oh, okay.
Could we have an ability to, I have a note on the side, my thought process is would we have a feedback loop on people who actually took the training and attribute the result of the training and their badge to their hiring or indeed getting an interview? Because that's the real value we're trying to offer, I feel, is people, assist people get jobs at the end of it. And for companies to have a bigger pool of people to hire from. So how could we track that?
I feedback loop game. I like those phrases. I'm not sure I understand it. Can you help me capture that in a way I can understand?
Sure. Let me, how to phrase it. An ability to be able to track success rates or hiring success rates as a result.
Success metrics, right? So anyone who comes out of this course, we want to do a 3-month follow-up to see if it impacted their employability, 6-month follow-up on employability, 1-year follow-up, right? Really basic metrics on like.
Thank you, Sal, for pushing my thought process. Teamwork.
But this is really good. There's also, we're missing an incentivizing vector. Like I'm working a lot with CNCF right now. Like I can't even get them to do security because like 8 out of 10 of the projects don't have a security protocol or anyone to contact, right? Like, so at a foundational level, we really need to propagate and probably mandate this training for those who are currently acting as maintainers as well. This also really improves the vector for new maintainers, which has been a really big issue in my book. So this is my favorite thing I've seen on this so far.
So we did talk about this last time, Sal. So that's actually part of the year 1 discussion, is we want to figure out ways to incentivize developers, encouraging foundation members to hire these newly trained professionals. So we'll be spending some more time kind of sussing that out. But that was like a year 1 goal,
Cool.
as opposed to in the future, we'll track it.
Yeah, let's get that done. Thank you. Cool.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, do we need to expand that? Where is that?
We talk about it. We talked about scholarships is one avenue of incentivizing things, scholarships and grants. Let me find it in the notes. It's very exciting to watch me scroll and click. I know we talked about that. Where did it go? Well, let's add it here while we're talking about it now, so we don't forget it.
Yeah, like a maintainer education pathway. It doesn't have to be massive, but they need to understand basics of security practices, like best practices around PRs and merging, basic community management.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the Google Doc so we can actually edit it together. Currently we have down to 11. Are we in the same place?
I'm adding. I'm lower. I like Sal's idea of specific maintainer training.
Okay.
And I think we have a lot of
as the new 12 after ACM IEEE.
I forked a bit.
You're editing. Okay, so we are simultaneously editing 2 different documents.
No,
hold up.
No, I am adding the maintainer persona as a target area for training. We need to have specific things for maintainers. And I think there's a large body of work we can borrow from Kubernetes and kernel and everybody to help inform this is what it means to be a maintainer and how to do things goodly and securely. Now, okay. I want to go back to the incentivizing. I know we talked about it, but I don't see it. So you were adding something, David.
Yeah, so I was in, let's see, page 6, first year, goals and costs.
Yes.
So by the way, the numbering started at 9, so I just fixed that. The numbering starts at 1.
Thank you.
So maybe that needs to be a 12 or something related. Sorry.
That's a Google Docsism. In the plan, they're bullet points. When I pasted them
Yeah,
into
that's
the
fine.
document, I put numbers, but then I took the second half and put above the top half, so it renumbered everything. So
Yeah, that is easily that is. Let's have problems like that. I already fixed it.
Yeah.
And numbering actually is helpful because it's easier to refer to something by number.
Correct. That's why I put numbers in there.
Yeah. So I had thought that we had something about incentivizing maintainers, but I
Me
don't
too.
see it either.
I know we have talked about it. So let's so if you go down to page 6, everybody,
Yeah.
on the last week's meeting notes, David added a bullet 12.
Yeah.
And let's talk about incentive. Let's pause the beyond year 1. Let's talk about first year and incentivizing. So let's put some things in here around incentivizing just in general, whether it's encouraging employers to hire these people, it's encouraging people to take the training, it's specifically encouraging maintainers to get badges. Let's suss this out a little bit.
I would say identify the top maintainers of top OSS projects. Pay them to take it. And employers, what can we do with employers?
Encourage them to hire people that have these training certifications, that have taken these classes, proven it.
Which
That
they've gotten
aligns-
is
that
a
aligns
good
with my
thing
next
to
question.
do,
Sorry.
but that's easier said than done. This is something that we in LPI, we've been working on for more than a decade. And it is surprisingly difficult to motivate people or to motivate companies to hire people who have not only training, but certification. You'd think it would be a slam dunk, but it's not. Which doesn't mean we shouldn't try for it, but I'm just setting expectations appropriately that it's going to be a hard one.
Yeah, I mean, kind of the premise of open source and hiring in it, right, is you hire the person with the demonstrated work, right? But one of the major issues that we have right now is that the reason why there is a dearth of qualified maintainers is that they're busy maintaining and they do not upskill anyone into those formally. Which again, I'll say it again, and none of them, not a single one has cybersecurity training, and I'm terrified. So I think in this case, typically the probably like paid maintainer things, there's going to be people who are already employed or already engaging on a project, right? Those are maintainers. But I think it's a very good pathway that we can build from some of the lower level training. Once somebody has a year or 2 of demonstrated on project effort, then they're qualified for this sort of maintainer level activity, right? So I think we can separate those aims based on the audience a little bit more clearly.
And very tactically, Mr. Bellendorf is a very good salesperson. And he meets with the governing board very frequently. If we put a bug in his ear that he should help support this program with the governing board members to encourage hiring of these types of people with these credentials, I think we could be have a smaller scope of success. There's only a handful of people on that level, but we can figure out some way to augment that.
Yeah, I mean, just a little bit of context around this, right? So I've been building out this thing that takes the CLO monitor, takes those outputs and puts the sort of indications for what you should do directly into PRs. So it's nicely automated. It sits where people actually care, which is just in the PRs. But even then, right, so many of these don't even have things like best practices around merging. There's like, you could do a really low lift around some really basic necessary maintainer things that really need to get out there soon. But I think I'm repeating myself.
I really like this angle a lot because, again, we've talked about just, David's courses around just general good practices and some specific techniques. And then like Glenn's SKF is hands-on keyboard, but we've never really talked a lot about maintenance of the software. And I think this would be a very beneficial augmentation of the existing information and a good focus area. So anything else around incentivizing maintainers? So we also talked about the scholarships, grants as a potential avenue of encouraging people to incentivize them to do this. Any other ideas we might have around incentivizing maintainers?
I think just
Contest.
having a list of what's in it for me would be very useful for why would they want to take this course and where are we framing the education, as in, I just put a comment in the chat about, like in Ireland, we have QQI, so straight away we know what that training and what level it's at, and where do we place the training with regard to other training that's out there that employers may be looking for, or students may like to have those letters after their name. So what level are we going for? And how do we get this training up there as a recognized standard?
Yeah, that's another good. We talked about accreditation, but yes, we need to think about how we get this, increase the prestige
Yeah.
of this particular coursework.
All right, I have a crazy idea. Excuse me, sorry about that. For some open source maintainers have the requirement, all maintainers must take a course in developing secure software. Here
Yes,
are
please.
some examples.
Make it required. And then
I mean,
because
that's incentive.
well, there's also, I mean, we can sort of carrot and stick this as well, but the stick is not us, it's the attack vectors, honestly. We are at a place where we can sit and genuinely, right, do an SCA on the open source projects, see which ones stack from least to most vulnerable, and make sure that we keep ecosystems safe in this way. So we should encourage the training as soon as they get a basic understanding of what these attack vectors really look like and why they should be incentivized. Then it's a good place for us to bring in that clear automation around vulnerabilities, well, semi-automation around awareness at least, where they're incentivized to take action. So I mean, and that needs to be incentivized year after year. So I would consider awarding it to the level of projects, right? Most secure open source projects is something that we should be having them aiming for.
You know, when we also talk about crazy ideas, I have another one. So what if there would be incentive, right, for the maintainers, not only to take the courses, but that they also really have like support, somebody actively helping them, explaining certain topics. I mean, yeah, it's maybe not realistic, but in an ideal situation, you know, if you push them and you want to incentivize them, but they have like a channel or somewhere, a person to reach out to ask, you know, the in-depth questions and help them. Because if you can help them, sometimes concept can be explained in 1 minute, but if you let them struggle, yeah, maybe they drown and don't do it or do it very wrongly, right? So maybe have this live support or mentoring indeed capability would maybe be a great incentive to go that route and put in the effort and get your stuff in order.
I really
So-
like the idea of a mentor network of some variety. I'm not sure where it fits into the plan, where it slots in, but I do think it would be very important for success. And if you look at things like exorcism.io, where people gain fluency in various programs, programming languages, exorcism.io, it's incredibly effective at helping people learn, and a large part of that is because of the mentors. And yeah, that's why hadn't we thought of that before? Thanks, Glenn. That's great.
Yeah, let me quickly comment. I love mentorships, but I will say that they're a killer for time. So I just added office hours. I noticed that some maybe we can merge these two, but you know, there's no way I actually do mentor one person right now, but you know, there's just no way for me to mentor the universe. And I suspect the same is
Aw.
true for others. But an office hours and ask me anything webinar, absolutely.
So, and
Yeah.
specific to that point, the Alpha and Omega team is spinning up office hours for the foundation. So if we're interested, we can grab one or many of those slots, as long as we can provide, the people that have the expertise to help with that mentorship. So there is something that exists we can lean into right now.
Yeah, that sounds great. I would say for like the initial cohort of maintainers going through this, right? They're going to need that. They're also going to be bringing up a bunch of edge cases we won't have thought of, right? Because every project does have slightly different practices for good reasons. But then the mentorship model should be at the level of the project specifically, because they are all so different. So if we can incentivize that, I was wondering, and I can't find the numbers on this, do we know how long on average an open source maintainer remains in that role? Because I would estimate it's like 2 years or 20 years, because they can't get anyone else to maintain it, right? But if we could know what sort of the cycle rate is, or make that more standard, that people understand they have to do that pass on of intellectual property, telling them that within a year of completing that course, they would be incentivized to be in a mentorship program for another maintainer to come onto their project might be good. Not sure.
I don't have
Yeah.
that information, but the LF might. David, do you have any?
I don't think we have that, but I'm actually not. I'm not sure it would help you. Because the cycle time is very much more based on it's human motivations, really. I mean, Torvalds has been doing this since the 90s because he likes doing it. Um, there are other folks who, Larry Wall hasn't done Perl in like 2 decades. So it's just, it's much more human related. But so rather than focus on the number, I think we can take it as a certainty that we are all mortal, and no matter what, we will eventually stop being involved in a project, either of our own free wills or not. So you should plan for succession.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that would be interesting numbers to know, but I think we can just depend on the, hey, you need to do this for succession.
Yeah.
All right. Any other ideas around incentive? This is some excellent builds that we seemingly lost or overlooked last week.
That's great.
All right. Well, we will have
So,
more time to continue to adjust.
so I just added this little thing here. Encourage devs to identify successors and make education/certification part of successor growth.
I like that.
Is that sort of capturing? Because then it doesn't matter how long it's going to be. You will need a successor eventually, but you should be working to identify them. Did that capture what we just talked about?
Yeah, I think that's perfect. And then over time, with some of the additional training that you are just more broadly providing, that might clearly line people up to be ready for that maintainer program within their communities, because knowing who is going to be the successor is usually one of the blocking points for some of these maintainers who actually wants to take it on.
What are the blocking points for what? I missed that last part.
Sometimes maintainers just do not think that anyone wants to take their job, which in a lot of cases is also true. But
Yeah.
I think, I mean, there's a major need right now for some of these like really sort of interwebbed ecosystems. I'm particularly thinking about CNCF's technical ecosystem here. If we can sort of identify the training and say, hey, look, because you can also maintain more than one project, right? Say, look, as a maintainer or successor into this, we need to move you onto this project if you're up for it. If they have that baseline knowledge, we just need to be able to identify the individuals with the skill set and desire. And that just it's not surfaced right now, but this allows that to be there.
Any further conversation on incentives before we try to close out the final item on the beyond as listed? Final item. So we were talking about implementing tracking. We'll be expanding the certification badges and rewards, which is related to the conversation we just had.
Sorry, we're going back to the
Yeah,
Beyond
I would like to go back. We're so very close in our last 14 minutes. I think we could talk about the last 3 points and say we've done our first draft, our first review, and then we'll start to reassemble these ideas into a more coherent plan. So scrolling up, continue the partnerships office. And that is something we had talked about in year one, pairing up with historically Black colleges and universities, organizations like Girls Who Code, and 3 or 4 target organizations for the underserved communities that we had tried. We were hoping to get this content to and make it more readily available for those types of folks. So the point here is we would like to continue that program and fund that however it moves forward.
And Major League Hackathons.
Glenn actually had the idea of a developer hackathon as opposed to like a capture the flag.
Well,
Some type of.
Well, no,
analogous.
MLH is an organization. So they used to run hackathons, but they've shifted through the pandemic to provide some pretty good sort of, their model is sort of a more holistic way of developing developers. So they'll have you describe the project that you want to make, gives you a lot of project management skills along with the training that they provide. So it differentiates itself in that way. But if we want to solve the problem of hiring, partnering with them will also do that because they have discrete partnerships with major tech companies, right? So this could be a cool opportunity, and this might fix the like pay the maintainers for new maintainers problem of providing that maintainer pathway through theirs or partnering with theirs.
What was the name of that organization, Sal?
Major League Hackathons. So the rest of these, some of these are contributor, like community driven, and some of these are, I think that one is going to have the most effective partnership outcome from this list, but put the content everywhere, partner with everyone.
All right. Our next item was our last item for the day, hopefully, is scholarships for developers. This is specifically creating a fund. We'll need to figure out how that's done, whether, you know, what are our target audiences, and we want to make sure that we're providing global opportunity. And that was an idea we had, is to create scholarships for devs.
This one looks like it needs a lot more work than just 3 words. And I have to admit, the number there looks pretty small.
It does. And so now that we've completed the review of the plan as written, we're going to go back through and I'll start to reassemble the next generation version of this document. And I would like to actually suss out. So for scholarships for developers, we'll need to write down some more details of a plan of what we're looking to do, who we're looking to provide these things to, and how this might be executed. And we have the opportunity to revise dollar figures. So if we think 250,000 is low, we have the ability to adjust that to a more a better number for ourselves, a better number for the proposal. Then once we're done with the plan, what tactically or procedurally happens is we would take that plan to the governing board to have them review and vote on whether they want to fund this or not. And then they try to solicit direct contributions for member organizations or any, potentially government organizations or private entities potentially to help fund this. So that'll be our kind of end goal, as that goes to the governing board for review and approval. Vicki.
So I would keep this, but obviously we're going to keep this. I think it's a great idea, and I don't think I'm alone in that. But drop the amount, because what I would like to see us do with this is to have an iterative process where the first year we do have, say, only $250,000, and then we can have iterate, right, and see what worked, what didn't, and then the next year have $1 million, and then the next year have, right. So if we drop the amount completely, we don't have to worry about that. Obviously, we will need that amount in some sort of budget that we come up with, a first draft budget, but I think that's something that's going to take a bit more thinking than just some wild ass guess, right? So just drop it and we'll figure it out.
I hate to drop a number completely because in the world of budgets, if a dollar figure isn't there, the dollar figure is zero.
Oh, sure. And that's when we get to the budgeting part, sure. But I think we need to think this through more.
Oh yeah.
Before we start doing budgets, right?
I'd had a third thumb up if I had one.
Yeah. Okay. Your nose.
Well, I've worked with engineers and people long enough to understand that these estimates are very, very wrong. So a big part of the final before we present the plan will be us trying to get more educated guesses, and explicitly to state, first year we propose this is this size, and we need to do review and come back for second and third year reallocation.
Yeah.
We'll figure out a way to word that.
Yeah, as long as we word it in something like that, yay, big +1.
Yeah, but like continue partnerships office, 600,000. I don't know what that means. Or we're just throwing a blob of money at somebody. We'd like to have some specific success criteria.
I'll take 600,000. I will
Alex?
catch your blob.
Oh, you're the partner office now. Nice.
Yes.
Okay.
David, did you have a statement?
Well, my first comment, Alex, I'll take scholarships for developers for $250. I guess this is kind of in the weeds, I guess, but I think very soon, right after this call, we need to take these notes hiding within our meeting notes and start turning it into a document that looks like eventually something we'll put back up and as a separate doc. What are you
So
laughing
happy
at?
you mentioned that, David.
Yeah.
In the CERT SIG, I have a volunteer that is going to be doing that for that particular effort. And I'm wondering if we had a hardy soul here that was interested in contributing some time into stitching together the stub of the 2.0 plan and get all these notes appropriately organized. Otherwise, I'll do it and I'll get around to it eventually.
I know how to copy and paste into another Google Doc. Are
you volunteering to do that?
I can volunteer to do a copy paste into a Google Doc from one Google Doc to another. I suspect we need a little more than that, but what I'd say is, why don't we start by just copy pasting what we've done so far. We know it needs some improvement, but putting it into a separate doc that's going to eventually turn into the one we turn in, I think is I think we're starting to move towards specific things. Vicky's comments notwithstanding, she's right. This needs more work. But let's start turning into that document that's eventually going to be that final product.
That'd be excellent. And we'll put it like a market problem at the top. We'll have it would be great. It'd be the best business proposal you ever saw.
Oh, I'm not sure about that, but if it if it achieves the goal, then that's a good thing.
Yes, but I agree. So our next step is to put this into a more actionable format that we can start to specifically say, all right, continue partnerships office. What do we want that to mean? What are the steps we think we need to do? And then we'll hold off the time and cost estimate for a later date. But let's actually get the steps we feel we need to achieve that particular objective. So yes, if you could start that, David, that would be awesome. I will start on loading our Git repo with bare bones information. And we will meet again next week to continue this. So this week, are you leaving? This week, please reflect upon the totality of the plan. And once we actually get to see it in the new document, hopefully that'll generate some new ideas of things we might have missed. So as we have that document ready, we'll send that out to the group. And thank you, everybody, for contributing today. Excellent session. I appreciate everybody helping out today.
Okay, thank you.
Cheers. I'll see some of you in a couple hours.